Now, French police have suggested that Formula One star Jenson Button and his wife were gassed before being burgled while on holiday in Saint-Tropez. So how likely is that? Well, Hamish Bretton-Gordon is an expert on chemical warfare at Avon Protection, and he joins us now via Skype. So these reports suggest that Jenson Button and his wife may have been gassed. How difficult would that be to achieve?
Well, it's not entirely unusual. And actually here at Avon Protection, we provide resilience to a number of our high net worth, very wealthy clients, particularly from former Eastern Bloc countries, to cover this sort of thing. We have seen it before. And in fact, special forces use what we call anaesthetic gases, fentanyls, which this may well be. That's what it looks like. In hostage rescue, very famously in 2002 in Moscow, Russian special forces injected fentanyl into a theatre where 900 hostages had been held by Chechen rebels. That incapacitated the hostages and also the terrorists to allow the special forces to release them. Sadly, about 10% of the hostages were killed by fentanyl. So we have seen it before. I would say it is very rare, and particularly to high net worth individuals, it is a threat they face, although we haven't seen it in celebrities thus far. So it is a possible threat, but as yet not fully confirmed.
We spoke to an anaesthetist earlier on who said that it could be very hard to gas people using anaesthetic gases, not least because of the vast quantities that would be needed, and he found it hard to imagine what kind of delivery system they might use.
Well, certainly, yes, I did hear that. However, from a counter-terrorist perspective, it is, one understands it's more realistic. In fact, I helped Bear Grylls write his fiction novels, and the one just published, Ghost Flight, has a bit of this in there. And a book we produced last year called The Killing Range is exactly this sort of scenario where something like fentanyl is injected into a building and it incapacitates people, and you can recover them. In the anaesthetic medical world, they use very minute amounts of this. But actually a few litres of fentanyl, which you can't buy over the shelf, I might say, you can only get hold of this on the sort of black web, black market, but injected in the right place at the right time can incapacitate people, as has been described in the Button case. And they would be incapacitated for a number of minutes, possibly a bit longer, which potentially has allowed these criminals to steal very valuable jewellery. I would say that it is very rare, and actually the clients we look after, we provide very realistic mitigation for them, and my team here at Avon Protection are already in touch and working with Jenson Button's security team to make sure this thing doesn't happen in future. Would
a use of a gas like this cause coughing and spluttering? Would you suspect that something was going on, even if you were asleep when it was injected into the room?
No, probably very unlikely. I expect the Buttons, if this was fentanyl, would know absolutely nothing about it until they came around. I mean, that is, in pure stark sort of counter-terrorist operations, that is why we use this type of thing, because it knocks people out very, very quickly without allowing, say, terrorists or something to react to it. So I should think the Buttons knew absolutely nothing about this until they came around and realised that, some of their valuable possessions had been stolen.
How would you know if you had indeed been gassed? Were there any symptoms the next day, or what kind of evidence would you look for?
Well, I think you would feel pretty rough after this had happened, and there would be obviously the fact that stuff has been stolen or whatever, and I'm sure there are medical tests that can be done, and I'm sure the French police are all over this. With forensic teams looking for evidence of some sort of drug. I mean, chemicals always leave some sort of trace, some sort of trail, and I'm sure that the French forensic people would pick this up. But, fentanyl and anaesthetic gases, when used in this sort of criminal counter-terrorist type way, are used because of their particular qualities and sometimes difficult to pick up. However, I'd like to reiterate, with all terrorist and some of these sort of criminal events, that the thing that really sorts people out is really the surprise element to it. And that's how we work around these things, to make sure that clients and people like, the Buttons will not be surprised in future and have things in place in order to mitigate it. But I would reiterate, this is very rare.
OK. Hamish Bretton-Gordon, thanks very much indeed.